Good morning, everybody. Keith Engel here for TGI Sports Talks Sunday stream of consciousness. I hope everybody's having a great Memorial Day weekend, and we want to remember why we celebrate this holiday. It's for those, careful who you say happy Memorial Day to, because, veterans, this isn't a happy necessarily, and we don't have to be glum, right? We're celebrating those that have given up, made the ultimate sacrifice for their country. So let's remember why we have this holiday weekend, and at least set aside a few minutes to have those that have fallen for this country in our thoughts. So welcome, everybody. It's been a busy week in sports, obviously. We welcome everybody on Northeast Streaming Sports. We're simulcasting on Let's Talk Sports, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. By the way, Let's Talk Sports has entered into a new partnership with Sideline Sports, which you can find here on Facebook, and they have a lot of shows. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all the social media sites. So you can check that out, and we'll be talking more about it as we go along, and you'll be able to find some of TGI Sports Talk's content there as well. Certainly our one-on-one interviews. And the last one, by the way, was with Dick Drago of the former Boston Red Sox, Kansas City Royal, really good player in the 70s into the 80s. 60s, actually, too. We'll probably be on, we may have a one-on-one interview here in June, maybe one, maybe two. I'm not sure, or there could be none because of we're moving and we've got a lot going on. So we'll see how that goes, but we'll replay some of the previous ones. And once we get settled again, we'll get back into a regular schedule again. And I thank Dan Harris from Let's Talk Sports for helping to keep those interviews coming in. I give him the list. He chases them down. Look what we got here. I just said be careful with Happy Memorial Day, but we'll say good morning to Carlos. And again, remember what this holiday is for, guys. It's we get to party and have fun and say Happy Memorial Day because of those who have made the ultimate sacrifice for us. Good morning, Alan. I know you're excited about your Texas Rangers. Good morning to Rick Sherlock. Hope you're doing well. Drew, good morning. Celtics comeback. Amazing game last night. No NBA team. We'll get into this a little bit, too, today. No NBA team has ever come back from three, nothing down, and the Celtics now are on the precipice of doing that with a comeback win last night, last second, literally 1/10 of a second, I think, when the ball was tipped in by his name's escaping White. Yes, Derek White on a Marcus Smart miss. So great game last night, and the Heat and the Celtics will play a Game 7. Game 7s, there's nothing better in sports than Game 7s, right? Stars stay alive, too, in hockey. We'll talk a little bit about that. I do have a video. Jim Behringer can't join us today. I do have a video, but I've been having a little trouble with the share, so I don't know if we're going to get it. We're going to try hard. There's a good morning to Carlos. 4 shows today. Alan's busy. Alan has become the hardest working man in podcasting. In the last few months. So great job, Alan, on your success. Keep going. And thanks to all those good, excellent, Carlos, echoing what I said earlier. Every time we think, and I'm one, we think we have it, we think things are bad in this country, they're still better than most. So and listen, I have to check myself now and again as well. Speaking of Boston, what a game. It was a game. It was a great game. It was funny because for Miami to stay in, and I think Jimmy Butler and Adebayo, whatever, if I'm saying his name even close to right, I think they both shot like 30% from the field last night. So it's amazing they could be in there. And Drew will welcoming our league leader in fantasy in Mr. Rick Sherlock. Alec, good afternoon to you over there across the pond. Good morning to the rest of you, obviously. Neil Bush with us this morning. Good morning, Neil. White, 2.0 seconds on the clock, winds down. I think there was like a tenth of a second on there when he tipped it in, I thought. I could be wrong. You know, and Eric Spoelstra said, you know, nothing comes easy for the Heat. So they're going to have a tough time going back to Boston and winning that game, I think. Texas tied for MLB hitting honors. Listen, Texas is playing well, and we'll get into some of that. As obviously, we'll get into a lot of Major League Baseball today and a little bit of NFL, little NBA, little NHL. I got like an 8-minute clip if I can get it from Jim Barringer. I'm just having a little trouble with my share. Let me take a quick look. See, I don't have. Maybe maybe downloads. Might be able to do this. I'm not sure. Let me try something, guys, while we're talking here real quick. I don't know if this is going to work or not. Let me just. What happens when I do this? All you get is that, though.
What's going on, TGI Sports Talk fans? It's Jim Behringer here, the ringmaster, giving you an update here from vacation here in Vermont, the Stanley Cup playoffs.
I don't know. We're going to have to. You can probably hear him. I don't even know. You can probably hear him, but whatever. Jim, I don't know if we're going to be able to play your clip. I'm going to try the best I can, but we're having a little technical difficulties because I got the file a little late and wasn't able to get it prepped right. So we'll see what we can do. What else we got? It was great until the last seconds. Why can't Boston nail and close that casket? It was not great until, listen, they won the game. All that matters is wins and losses, man. They were down 3-0. You're battling for your life. This team obviously doesn't quit. This is a better team on paper. You don't play the game on paper, very obviously, but you know, by all rights, Boston should not be having trouble with the Heat. But they've come back nicely here. Oh, sorry about that, Alan. I didn't, what'd you say here? Second best team in baseball right now by a record. And you know what? Bill Parcells, that fat bastard. Oh, excuse my French. Just my nickname for Mr. Parcells. You are what your record says you are, and the record does say that the Texas is the second best team in baseball right now. Again, it's a long season, but Memorial Day, and we're going to talk about this, Memorial Day is the time when you start to really take a look at who is good and who isn't, and who has staying power and who doesn't, and whether you're going to be buying or selling very soon at the trade deadline. So listen, I was wrong so far on Texas, and partly because their offense has played better than I thought they would. Pitching, Gray's pitched okay. He'll get hurt, though. You've got about as many games out of DeGrom. Maybe you got more games out of DeGrom than I thought you'd get. And I know he's throwing, but he's just getting ready to come back and get hurt again. Anyway, Carlos, Miami went on a 12-0 run, and Boston was just giving points and fouls away like they were lollipops at the bank. I don't know. All I know is they won, and it's 3-3. So I don't know. But that's an interesting note. And again, I think it is weird that the National League lead the National League in hitting, and I'm assuming you mean batting average, right, Drew? It just goes to show you that you need to be good in all facets of the game and not just one or two, or I guess you can get by with a couple. But you need to pitch, you need to catch, you need to throw, you need to hit, you need to run the bases. And, there's not a lot of complete teams out there. Whatever. My God. They won. At the end of the day, they won. They're going back home with a chance to win after being down 3-0. I'm not going to listen. Yeah, they should have won by 40. Okay. They won by 1. Counts the same. Counts the same. Anyway, let's jump into, I don't know how I'm going to try to get this video up. But we'll go into baseball since we'll let the basketball rest for a second. You know what? Let's continue with the basketball for a second. We'll go into baseball. We'll wrap up the NBA. We'll go into baseball, and while we're talking about it, I'll try to see if I can multitask and figure out this video at the same time. So just to kind of complete it now. So now 3-0. Let me put up my banner since we're talking about the NBA here, so everybody knows what we're talking about for the moment, and then we'll move on. So again, we're talking about this Celtics. Nice spelling there, by the way, right? For try. No teams ever come down from 3-0. In fact, in sports, very interesting little side note, I guess. The only team or the first team ever to come back from a 3-0 deficit in any league was a team from Boston as well, which I remember all too well in 2004 when the Red Sox came back to beat the Yankees in 7 games. We'd rather not remember it, but we do. So the question becomes: do we blame Spoelstra? I still say he's the best coach and definitely the most underrated coach in basketball. He did get this team up 3-0, a team that is clearly not as good as the Celtics talent-wise on paper. And I think, in a lot of situations, a team blowing a 3-0 lead would be roasted badly, and the coach would be as well. I don't think it's going to apply for Eric Spoelstra. And it also, listen, I like Jimmy Butler, and I think Jimmy Butler is a great player, but I think Jimmy Butler is not a superstar. He plays like a superstar at times, but then he comes up really small like he did last night. And this team needs Spoelstra. Yeah, they need Spoelstra to coach. They need Jimmy Butler to be the man last night. And now they need him in Game 7, obviously. And Adebayo as well has got to play better than he played last night. They should have a huge advantage in the middle, and they don't. And they're going to have trouble. Both of these teams are going to have trouble matching up against the Nuggets. And the Nuggets are a different question, too. They've got a lot of rest, but how much is too much rest? How much momentum gets lost sitting around? So we'll see. Let's see. Where are we here? The Facebook police don't like those type of, oh yeah, right. Don't get my show banned. I understand the context. There's nothing wrong with saying it. That you actually point out some great ridiculous nonsense that Facebook has. Their bots trolling, looking for certain groups of words put together. I got myself banned. If you remember, I don't know what it was, a year ago, maybe it was 2 years ago now. And I still don't know why, and nobody ever told me why. Nobody ever told me how long my ban would be. Ricky says he was warned. I'd love to know what you said about Hank Stram, by the way. Rick. I don't remember. You got a warning on this show? Because I guess you probably told me about it. But, I mean, I got my show, my Facebook page, my TGI Sports Talk page, got banned without any kind of explanation or anything. And then one day I came back like 2 weeks later. And I blasted Facebook for the entire time. I still broadcast through my personal page and Northeast Streaming Sports and whatever. But I was ticked, man, because I got no explanation ever. And there's nobody at Facebook you can call. You reach out to their support team or their if you dispute this claim, team. Ridiculous. Frickin' Nazis. Tatum needs to get it together. How'd Tatum do last? I don't think Tatum had a bad game last night, did he? Let's take a quick look. Let's take a quick look at the box score from last night. I thought Tatum had a pretty good game. 8 of 22. He didn't shoot great. Bad night from 3 again, though, man. 0 for 8. So I'll agree with Carlos. But did lots of other things to help. 5 assists, 12 rebounds, 3 offensive rebounds. I think that's one place that I thought that the Heat would have a better advantage was on the offensive boards, but that has not really panned out either. So the two stars here, right? Tatum goes 8 for 22 and Butler goes 5 for 21. Adebayo, 4 for 16. Did have 13 rebounds and 5 assists. Jimmy had 8 assists. But they just need to lead this team better. 11 points for Adebayo. They don't have, Caleb Martin's a nice player. Vincent has his moments. But this is not a very good team outside of the two stars. So if they're going to play like they played last night, they're going to have no chance in Game 7. Yeah, the Nuggets are, I think if I'm not mistaken, I think I saw where if this were to go 7, that they'd have 11 days off. I don't know if that's accurate or not. Let me take a quick look. I saw something about the Nuggets here. Malone keeping the Nuggets. So Malone's working on keeping the rhythm during their break in the NBA Finals. They did return to practice. They hadn't even practiced since they wrapped up their series against the Lakers. The Nuggets have not played since sweeping the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals on Monday, meaning they will have 9 days off heading into Game 1. 9 days off. That's a lot. It's not as big a deal as it is in baseball, because in baseball you're used to playing every day. But through the playoffs, these teams are used to playing every other day. So it becomes a question of how much time off is too much. Now, I do think they have a huge advantage with the home court, the first 2 games, especially these two teams playing a tough 7-game series. Whoever wins, I think Monday is the Game 7. We'll have to take a look in a second. But the Nuggets, with that altitude issue, I think it's magnified by the fact that one of these teams will come in gassed even to start. So, yes, a nice vacation for the Nuggets. But again, the question becomes, how much is too much? Even if he doesn't take over, he has to set and be well, I agree. He tries. He's not doing it, right? So Tatum has been a disappointment throughout this playoff run, in my mind. He had a couple of bad games against the Sixers where he just disappeared in the fourth quarter. Yeah, we all know that coaches make no difference, Carlos. If you don't think Eric Spoelstra has had an effect on this team reaching the conference finals, you just don't understand, and there's no sense of me trying to continue to explain it to you. Happy holiday weekend to you, too, Waldo. Great to have you with us. Bill Pulver in the house. Killer Butler is an all-star, but not a superstar. He plays like a superstar at times, but superstars bring it pretty much every night. He doesn't. It is okay. He's a good player. He's a great player. But that means the Heat also have no superstars, right? Look, the Celtics are a better team. CA's with us. Blessed Memorial Day weekend to everybody. Remember the daily. Exactly. Remember the people that have fallen. And not just tomorrow, by the way. Remember it every day, guys. As I said, I do a lot of ripping of this, the issues this country faces and the way they're addressed. But I'm not moving out of the country because of what others sacrifice. So we have the best country in the world, even with all our problems. Bots don't give explanations. It's ridiculous, Drew. It's, they say they have people you can talk to, and nobody will ever talk to you. They don't even send you an email back. Now, I didn't even get a warning. Rick got a warning. I can't remember what you did or said. It's ridiculous. Bots just listening with no context. Nah, man, in the fourth quarter, he was almost I don't. I can't read people's minds, so whether he's overthinking or not, I don't know. They took down a post and said it was threatening language. Talked about Hank laughing on the sidelines and said he wanted to. Rick doesn't want to write it. I'll say it. He wanted to punch him in the face. Oh, too funny. We could go on for the whole show about Facebook and the ridiculousness of Facebook, but Mark Zuckerberg might be watching the show. He may have made a oath never to watch the show either. True. When baseball players come back after 4 to 5 days from the All-Star break, it's bad. 9 days for basketball is a bit too much. Well, again, it's unavoidable if you're going to, wrap things up in 4 games. Rick Sherlock is a threat to humanity. Finally, somebody has recognized the threat that Rick Sherlock is to our very way of life here in the United States. So thanks for pointing that out. Just quit using Nazis and you'll be okay, maybe. I don't know. If people are going to act like Nazis, I will call them out. I'm okay with that, too. If they want to block me again, they can. It's not that big a deal. Because as I said before, I will take the show elsewhere. There's a lot of platforms, and I've done my best to promote this show on Facebook at the expense of YouTube and Twitter, where I also broadcast to. But I haven't really made an effort to grow those audiences the way I have here. So that's fine. And again, do I think that's going to matter to anybody? No. So believe me, I understand my little place here. So anyway, we'll see what Game 7 brings to the NBA. And by the way, the Bucks did hire a new coach, and surprisingly, we thought it was going to be Nick Nurse. Were kind of the rumors, the former Raptor coach, and they hired his top assistant, Adrian Griffin, to be the next coach. He'll replace Mike Bodenholzer, who was dismissed after 5 years in ridiculous fashion. By the way, he's a really good coach. Bodenholzer will be coaching in the NBA next year. You can mark my words. But we'll see. New coach, no voice. So the 3 finalists for this job were Golden State associate head coach and former net coach Kenny Atkinson, Nick Nurse, and, of course, Griffin, who got the job. So one of the jobs is filled. There's still a bunch that are open here in the NBA. Who's left here? Let me take a quick, since we're on this topic, and then I can close my NBA windows. So the Rockets have hired Udoka, former Celtic coach, who was fired over sexual harassment issues. I'm a little surprised, to be honest with you, with the atmosphere and in general, that he was going to get a job this quickly, but he did. He replaced Steven Silas. The Bucks, as we just said, hired Adrian Griffin. The Wizards hired a new general manager, Michael Winger. Clippers general manager was hired as a president of Monumental Basketball, which oversees the Wizards. And we'll see whether there are more changes on the horizon there. The Pistons are looking for a coach. One of the rumored candidates there has obviously been hired, and Adrian Griffin, but they've also interviewed Charles Lee, Chris Quinn, Josh Longstaff. So not a lot of retreads here. Vanderbilt coach Jerry Stackhouse, former Detroit player, is part of that team. Former UConn coach Kevin Ollie has already had an interview. We'll get a second interview. And some of the other guys have already been hired. The Sixers have talked to Budenholzer, who I think will get that job, by the way. Sam Cassell, who's an assistant there. Mike D'Antoni is not going to get this job. Frank Vogel possibly will get this job. I think him and Budenholzer might be the two guys who might be the most likely here. The Suns have interviewed their own assistant, Kevin Young, Budenholzer, Nick Nurse, and Clipper coach Ty Lue, who's kind of in limbo. And the Toronto Raptors, Kenny Atkinson, Charles Lee, Kevin Lee. Becky Harmon actually is getting an interview there. She's the Las Vegas Aces coach. Going to be interesting. There will be a woman coach in the NBA at some point. There's assistants. The Spurs have an assistant. I think one other team has an assistant that's a woman. And there will be one at some point. And JJ Redick, of course, who we know who's been campaigning for this job, as part of his ESPN analysis. So lots of moves still to come there. It's all automated. It's very technology. Whatever. If you think Carlos, if you're going to defend, I hope you're not defending Facebook, right? If you're going to defend them and tell me that their technology is advanced so that, this is a good thing, I will tell you it's not. It's not. When people get kicked off of Facebook for with some of the crap that I see that gets left up on Facebook, and I know people who have been kicked off for saying really nothing, like Rick was threatened. So they've built their technology to act like Nazis in an automated fashion. That's even better. Not dangerous at all. Basement Bob's writing a book on that. Basement Bob. I haven't heard from Basement Bob in a while. His lawyers, I guess, have given up on me. Hardly on Facebook, but since you sent an article on the real reason Carlos... What is this? But since I sent you an article on the real reason Carlos Catholic NYU is losing sports, St. Francis University, by the way, I can't share anything on sports page. I went to Facebook to get out of town. Are you serious? Well, don't blame them, because it could be the settings on my page, right? I don't have it open. I have to approve stuff to get put on there, which I'm more than happy to do. So just make sure there's something I need to share. And I do believe I shared that article, CA. So that may not be them. I'm not sure. Darts information to get you started. Oh, darts. Darts are the way to go. I'm done with the NBA, guys. Let's move on to Major League Baseball, shall we? Oh, God. Who's going to get fired, by the way? Let's look at the standings real quick, because Memorial Day's here, and I got to figure out this whole Jim Behringer thing. I hope I can get in this. I'm going to leave the NHL to the end, and hopefully we got like an 8-minute video from Jim. And if I can, I'll post it to the page later for you guys. And Jim, I'll apologize if I can't get it up. I just have not had a chance to get that in there. So with Memorial Day here, it's kind of, look, it's the unofficial start to summer, and it's really the unofficial start to Major League Baseball season, where we start to say, are these guys real? Tampa Bay's obviously for real, guys. Lost yesterday, but they still lead the East by 4 games over the surprising Orioles, who we knew would be good. I did not know they'd be quite this good, I don't think. And I do think they're here to stay. Pitching will be a problem there as well. It is everywhere. Again, tell the powers that be, guys, if you want to have a voice, tell the powers that be, tell the powers that be, I have had such a, anyway, never mind. Tell the powers that be, forget about expansion, guys. There's not enough pitching or decent players in general to go around now, much less later. Yankees with a nice win in 10 innings yesterday. Again, to me, a ridiculous, let's start with a runner on second base rule helps the Yankees out here in extra innings. Major League Baseball continues to just screw the game up royally. If you're a traditionalist like I am, and you think these rules are good, I just don't know what to say. I mean, again, I've come around on the pitch clock a little bit just because the pace of play is much, much better. But there are still side effects that I don't like from it. So Yankees, again, 7 games out. Severino pitched really good again yesterday. Second consecutive game, he pitched really well. The Yankees will be here, but they still need to improve left field. They're going to need pitching. They're going to need a third baseman. Now, DJ's played well there. It's going to be interesting to see what happens when Donaldson comes back. If the Yankees are going to make a move, then the logical guy to move is Gleyber Torres if they're going to try to improve left field, the starting pitching or the relief pitching, which would put DJ or one of the kids at second base more full-time. So we'll see what happens with the Yankees as we get closer to trade deadline. We'll be talking about that. The Red Sox continue to surprise, at least me. I know Drew wasn't terribly high in them either. 28 and 24, they've won 2 in a row again. I would have thought they'd have sunk much lower. And the Blue Jays, 27-26, lose again yesterday, 2-8 in their last 10. As I said Friday, and as I said in our preview show, I still think Brian Schneider will be the first manager fired, and Donnie Baseball will be managing this team. And we'll talk about other guys. Well, nobody else will be in trouble in the East here, manager-wise. And maybe we'll go back. Let me check some comments here before I move on. Here's Kenny. Go Terriers. Good morning, Kenny Gifford up on the mountain. Hope you're doing well today. Hope your knees rehabbing nicely. NYU has better dentistry programs and basketball programs. The fact that the majority of people who call others Nazis are themselves following that path. I'll try not to take that as an insult because I am not, in fact, a Nazi, but I recognize the behavior when I see it. And I'll continue to call it out when I see it. And if I do believe that Facebook does act out in that fashion, you know, but it's all part of the cancel culture, you know, world we live in today. So I'm not going to watch what I say because I'm worried who might hear it. Don't care. I just don't care. It's not important enough to me. If I was banned from all social media, my life would go on nicely. But there are a lot of warning signs in our society today, and people should really pay attention. That's a different show. Dallas did step up. We'll talk about that in a bit because I do want to try to get the video going one more time, and I'm not sure how I'm going to have the time to do that, but we'll try to figure it out. With a walker, feel like I'm 90. See the doctor on Friday, but on Thursday I'll be using a walker. Well, it's all part of the process, Kenny, and hopefully you and I will be on the golf course at some point this summer when you're feeling better. I'd like to get to the fairways on Half Moon. Will be right around the corner once I move. So I'm looking forward to that. The shift being out is pretty interesting on defenses. No, it's not. It's just another artificial way to help hitters. You know, and yes, I will say to your point, maybe to your point, Carlos, that defenses have tried to get creative ways to overcome that, playing 5 infielders and 2 outfielders, you know, which creates the same effect, at least on the infield portion, but certainly gives the hitters an advantage once they get the ball in the air. So listen, all these rules are just ridiculous, and let's just go back to playing the game we used to play. And don't tell me that, you know, things need to change. Are the Rangers better, or is that division a mess? We'll skip over to Central for a second. Listen, the Rangers are better, without a doubt. I mean, as I've talked about a few times here and on the MLB update, their offense has played better. They're getting on base at a better clip, which, again, I said last year was their biggest downfall. Their on base percentage as a team was like 300. I think they're in the 340s the last time I looked, which, again, is pretty not bad overall. They still have some issues. There's a couple of guys. Garcia still has. He's actually getting on base at a better clip. And they're making better contact. Pitching still could be a problem there. But is a division worse? No, the Astros are 8-2 in their last 10. They've got Altuve back now. This is still the class of the American League. And the Yankees, if they don't make some changes and they're going to go into the playoffs and a potential matchup with the Astros again. And again, I understand the Rangers are better, but I still think the Astros are a favorite. That's who the Yankees will be worried about. They're not going to beat the Astros with the same lineup they've lost to them for the last 6 years. Not them every year, but you understand my point. The only significant difference in the lineup would be Volpe. And that's not enough. So, I listen, the Astros are still the best team, and they haven't really hit. Altuve will help them, though. And the Angels, still a bit of a surprise. So, again, do I think that division's weak? No. I mean, 4 of the 5 teams are over 500. And don't blame it on the division because they play less games in the division than they've ever played before. What do you got here, Neil? Oh, Manoah's been terrible. And the pen's been very weak. Yes, and the Blue Jays are underperforming pretty much everywhere. Vlad's been okay. You know, this team is too good on paper. Again, we don't play the game on paper. We all know that. But this team's too good to be languishing 1 game over 500 and 10 and a half games out of first. Somebody will pay the price. And I guarantee you Brian Schneider's seat is getting very, very warm. Very, very warm. So, yeah, you can't send a runner at second base rule for it's awful. I mean, you diametrically change the way the game's played in extra innings. It's just there's no logic that makes any sense here because you want to shorten games. How often do we play 18, 19, 20 inning games anyway? And then teams get the guy in second base, and they don't even hardly anybody makes an effort to move him over. They don't even play the game the right way once they have the advantage of a guy on second and nobody out without earning it. I told my wife this, like, she didn't know about the rule. She doesn't follow baseball as closely as she does football. But she was shocked. She goes, wait a minute. So they put somebody on second base and he doesn't earn his way there? Shocking. Kenny. I am not big on the Red Sox. Considering your blood is pinstripe, that's a compliment. My blood is pinstriped, yes. No shift sure put the pitcher in defenses. How does it put the pitcher in defense more advantage than anyone thinks? It's good. It's a little off. I'm not following you too much, Kenny, but I think you're saying that it gives the pitcher in defense an advantage. It gives a hitter an advantage without a shift because I don't have to. I don't have to. You know, these guys continually would hit into the shift, and batting averages had sunk, and the 3 true outcomes were still. You know, I'm trying to hit it over the shift. So I'll take pitches and I'll either walk, strike out, or hit a home run, or hit it directly into the shift. So batting averages had declined. They artificially put in a rule to improve that. Instead of improving the play and the player's approach to the game, we'll change the rules to help them. Again, it's, I hate to. Neil Bush, Seager is playing healthy and playing it is a big boost for the Rangers. He had a big home run the other night. This team's won 4 in a row again, too, by the way. And I wonder, by the way, we were talking about managers in trouble. In this division, I wonder, the Mariners have battled their way back above 500, but there was high expectations for this team this year. And Scott Servais, who last year was rumored to be in trouble early in the year, I wonder if he might be feeling his seat getting a little warm, too, if this team doesn't improve here quickly in the weeks that follow the holiday tomorrow. So we'll see what happens there. Hopefully before summer is over, you and your wife will be more settled and we'll have time to talk. My decision to dive into the assault on humanity, that is the internet age, is one of several. Yes, you know what? Maybe I'll start a new show that'll get me banned for life on Facebook. We will get settled, LCA, and we will have those discussions. Listen. I like social media. It gets me in front of you guys. I don't want it gone. I think it's being misused in a lot of cases, unfortunately. That's my problem. Disadvantage. Okay. See, like me, words matter, Kenny. It is a huge disadvantage. Again, we've only been able to shift for 150 years, and it only became predominant because players didn't adjust to it. But we don't expect players to adjust and make themselves better and their effort better and their approach better and their performance better. We'll just put rules in that help them. Because, why should we expect them to work at their craft and get better? After the season, after this season, they will have your favorite analytics, yes. And they will show that hitting will... Again, I'm not telling you hitting hasn't improved. I'm telling you it's been artificially improved. The hitters aren't better. We made it easier for them. And if that's all you care about is hitting, then you're watching the wrong game. Go watch cricket or something. I don't know. At the end of the day, hitting is one of the hardest things to do in sports. It is. You're right. And it shouldn't be made easier artificially, Kenny. Kenny, sorry. Sorry, Kenny. Good grief. Carlos, why would you make it easier? Baseball continually tries to fix things that aren't broken. Instead of addressing the problem, we come up with Band-Aids and makeup and make it look prettier. What's the old adage? You can put lipstick on a pig and it's still a pig. Yeah. One of the most remarkable stats of all time, Joe DiMaggio hit, I think I have this right. He hit 369 home runs in his career, and he struck out 366 times. That'll never happen again. Well, first of all, Tony Gwynn's dead, so he's not one of the best hitters in the majors. But I'm assuming you meant the past tense. I'm not sure why he was one of the best hitters in the league, because guess what you couldn't do against Tony Gwynn? You couldn't put the shift on him. Hitting a baseball is hard. It may be the single hardest thing to do in all of sports. I don't disagree with that even a little bit, Carlos. But I don't want better hitting at the expense of guys having to work to whatever. Anyway, Central. Everybody in Central stinks. I would think, listen, Terry Francona is not going to get fired even with the Guardians at 22 and 29, but I think Terry Francona's, he's liable to walk away at any minute. And I think this season might be, I said this last year, I know that. I may have said it the last couple of years. I think he'd probably like to win. That's shocking to me. I think he's been the manager in Cleveland like 9 years, and I'm shocked it's been that long. But this may be his swan song. The Chicago manager won't get fired because he's first year. If I mention the Royals, I'm worried. And Rocco Baldelli, I like Rocco, but, the Twins continue. They lead this division, and I don't think he'll get fired during the season. I really don't. But this team needs to be in the playoffs, and this team needs to find a way to win a series. They never seem to win a playoff series ever. So, as we stand now with Memorial Day coming, who's the real surprise? The Red Sox? I don't think it'll last. I do think the Rays with the Orioles will stay up there. Probably not playing at the pace that they're playing, but they'll certainly be in this race the whole way. I think the Guardians will probably be better in the second half. Well, we're not at the second half yet, but, as the season now hits its stride, The White Sox are recovering a bit. We'll see if that continues, and the Royals obviously stink. And in the West, you can look for Oakland to set a Major League Baseball record for losses. And I think you may see a four-way race. I do think the Rangers, at this point, I have to say, the Rangers are for real. Their pitching will be a problem, potentially. And the fact that, you're on the pace to get, 12 starts or something out of DeGrom, which should surprise nobody. But I think you're going to see the Astros and the Mariners finish 1-2 here still. And then you'll have the Rangers and the Angels maybe battling for a wild card spot. We'll see. Before I move on to the National League, let's see what kind of other comments we have of people getting on me. You can only coach so much to hitters. Nobody's saying it's an easy task, Carlos. But you, again, I hate to keep doing this, but it's a microcosm of society, right? We don't want people to get better at their craft. We'll change the rules. We'll make things easier for them. You tried, so here's your trophy. Thanks for trying. It's BS. It's destroying the fabric of this country from the inside out. And you keep giving people trophies for participating, and this is what you get. And it's kind of the same thing. Baseball's too hard. Hitting a baseball's too hard. Let's make it easier. Let's lower the bar. Make the bar higher. Give people incentive to improve themselves. I don't make it easier for my people. I don't lower their targets and their goals ever. They go up every year. In the real world, that's the way it is. My people's goals go up because mine go up. They don't make it easier. I don't get a paycheck to say, hey, thanks for showing up and trying today. If we're not productive, we don't have jobs. And nobody makes it easier so you can keep your job. Nobody. That's the way the world works. It's not the way it should work. And this is a perfect, microcosm, or I'm probably using the wrong terminology, of society in general. Let's make the game easier. I do think hitting is the hardest thing to do in baseball, but I don't want to make it easier. I want the people to get better. But Kenny thinks it's not the hardest thing. It's up there, but not the hardest. I can name maybe 10 or 12 former players that would have eaten up the shift. But I agree with that. It is still hard, though, Kenny. That part of it I will not disagree with. I just don't want to make it easier artificially. That's all. CA, Texas, like Houston, is moving towards a position to be buyers before the trade. You know what? Here's the problem. Everybody's going to be a buyer because of the wild card, and now 3 wild cards, right? Since last year, everybody's going to be in contention except for the A's, the Royals. Everybody in the National League theoretically is in contention for a wild card because you got all these teams bunched up at 27, 25, 26 wins. So it's going to be interesting. You're going to see teams probably be buyers and sellers at the same time. That's what the Orioles did last year. The Orioles sold, but were still playing to win a wild card. So they didn't just dismantle their team. So I don't think you'll see a lot of wholesale moves. And the problem with the there's a couple players on the Royals that would probably generate some interest, but on the A's, who are you going to take off the A's? And none of these other teams are going to totally dismantle their teams because they're going to want to at least have a chance to compete. The Nationals will probably sell. And there are teams that should sell, like the Rockies and the Cubs and the Reds. But if they stay on the peripheral of this wild card, they're probably not going to dismantle their rosters, right? So even the Mets as a team, with all the changes they've made since like 2017, have been leaving men at base at very high average. Again. So how do you want to make that easier? Why don't we remove an infielder? Why don't we say you can only have 8 guys on defense? Mets' problems are deep. And listen, they're 4.5 games behind the Braves. They're still in a better position than the Braves or the Phillies were at this point last year. So I'm not saying the Mets are in trouble, but Buck needs to change his ways. Buck needs to stop rolling out the same lineup every night. He needs to stop hitting Lindor in a 3-hole if he's not going to hit. I've said for a while, the Braves are the best, are the most evenly. What time is it? You know, we could have been at 10:30 for all I know. The Braves are the most complete team in the National League. Hitting, fielding, pitching. They missed Dansby Swanson, obviously, but this is still a good team. They're struggling a little bit right now, 500 in their last 10, but it's still a good team. And I think the best team in the National League, even though the record says the Dodgers are, I still think the Braves are the best team. The Mets, theoretically, if Verlander and Scherzer stay healthy in the second half, they can find some guys to pitch behind them because that's been a disaster much of the year. Quintana getting healthy would probably help. But Peterson was a disaster and went to the minors. McGill's pitched okay. They're going to need those two guys to be healthy and productive, and they're going to need to hit the ball better. And yeah, like hitting with runners in scoring position is always been important in baseball. Home runs, you don't need to hit at least the way the game used to be played. Pitching, defense, and timely hitting. That's what you need. Timely hitting means when guys are on base in a scoring position, you come through. You don't need home runs all the time. I don't know. So the Braves continue to lead the East. The Mets trying to fight back. The Marlins, up and down. They're back to another 2-game winning streak and getting themselves back over 500. Not enough bats, but really good pitching. Really good pitching. Phillies, now they won 2 in a row again. They're getting close to 500. The Nationals hanging in there. The Central, like the AL Central, it stinks. It's awful. The Brewers, once again, not scoring enough runs. They're leading the division, but they got a minus 23 run differential. Pirates are not for real. And the Cardinals are fighting their way back, by the way. They're only 6 games under 500 and 4 games out of first. The Reds hanging in there, but I don't see this team going anywhere. I would think David Bell could be one guy in trouble in the National League. Dave Martinez, you would think, but he's going to get a pass because of that team is not very good at the Nationals. We talked about David Ross. I don't think David Ross is going to be in trouble in Chicago. He didn't put this horrible team together. What a bad approach they took to putting this roster together. I'll get back to a couple comments in a second. In the West, the Dodgers lead by 2.5 games over the surprising Diamondbacks. Drew and I both talked about this in the preview show, that the Diamondbacks would be better. We thought they were a year away from really contending, and that still might be the case. Even though they're 6 games over, 2.5 games out of first, they're in the playoffs if they were start to today, but they don't ever start in May. Maybe we'll change that rule too, Carlos, that the teams in first place. Maybe we'll split the seasons like they did in 81 because we want to give everybody a chance. The Giants, a bit of a surprise. They've won 3 in a row now, 8 of their last 10. They're only 4.5 games out of first. And maybe Gabe Kapler's magic is starting to work again. I don't know. I mean, when you approach it like the Giants do with kind of second-tier starters, platoons all over the field, it's a little – you have to have a perfect storm to be able to really, really compete. And they're not going to win 107 games, obviously, but this team may be better than expected and may compete for a wild card. We'll see. I just don't think they're for real as we approach this, the season hitting full stride point of Memorial Day. The Padres, continue to flounder, 4 games under 500. I said chemistry might be a problem in this team. Now health is a problem. Obviously, the pitching is not pitched well. The question will become, and I don't think this should happen, will Bob Melvin have to pay the price here? And I don't think this is his problem. Again, you put a team of superstars together does not mean you're going to win anything. You can't just roll a ball out there and expect them to do well. So I do think in the National League, I think the Braves are obviously for real. The Mets are for real. The Marlins, I don't think will continue this pace and stay in the playoff hunt. We'll see. The Phillies will probably hang around the peripheral of it. The Pirates will not. The Pirates have already been fading for weeks now. They're 1 game over 500. Cardinals will be back in this race, and they could very well win the division after their horrendous start. If they hadn't corrected the ship, I would think Carlos Marmol would be one of the guys in trouble here at this point, but they're safe. The Reds and the Cubs are not. And I think David Bell will be in trouble, but I do not think that David Ross will be. Out west, the Dodgers obviously are better than I thought they were. We'll see. I do think that will continue, but their pitching and the health of their pitching will be important. Goslin's already been hurt this year. He's come back. Hasn't been quite the pitcher that he was last year, but it might take a few weeks to get that together. Kershaw's pitched well, but again, he's been an injury waiting to happen the last few years. Urias got hurt the other day. So their starting pitching, which was already thin because Syndergaard's now probably bumped up to their number 2 starter. We're going to find out the depth of this organization because they're going to have to dip into the minors. Because I don't think there's going to be enough starters to go around here come the trade deadline. And it's never a sure thing. You see what happens all the time with these trades. And guys just don't perform up to expectations, especially when it comes to the Yankees. The Padres will probably right the ship and get into playoff contention, even if it's not for the division. They should make the playoffs. We'll see. And it'll be interesting to see if Bob Melvin ends up paying any kind of price here if they don't get it going pretty soon. So that's some of the stuff going on right now around the league. What do you got here, Carlos? I missed a bunch. So anyway, let me go back to where I was. I think we're here. Even the top teams in baseball the last few years have had low batting percentage. Yes, Carlos, because they keep hitting into the shift. This isn't hard. This is not hard. God. The batting averages have gone down because of players' approach to the game. Oh, my God. When you're playing as a young man, you're taught to hit the ball where they're not standing with a glove. But now we'll make it easier and we'll put the gloves in specific places. CA, we're watching the PDC. I'm going to say Professional Darts Championship. Maybe I'm wrong. European Tour Grand Prix out of Germany. While listening to the show. Thanks for listening to us while you watch that the Dart Championships. Low batting percentages as a team, not individuals. Well, Carlos, that is a ridiculous thing to say. You can't have You can't have high percentages of all your individuals and a low percentage as a team. Some individuals will always have. So, by the way, it's the overall percentage that makes a difference. One guy, whatever. I can't explain this. If these multimillionaires just bunt to shift, you could bunt the ball down the third base line when the shift was in play and get a double, but nobody did it. Which, by the way, if that was done a handful of times, you would need an artificial rule of eliminating the shift because teams would do away with shifting. Idiots. The Pirates finally move Andrew? Andrew who? Who are we talking about here? Let me see who you're talking about. Oh, McCutcheon? Well, no, I don't think you're going to. Well, maybe they'll send him to a contender. I think the Pirates will fool themselves into thinking they're a contender come the trade deadline. And they just brought Andrew McCutcheon back, so I'm not sure if that's who you mean. It's unlikely that they're going to move. It's unlikely they're going to move anybody. They could make a trade. They could be an Oriole. They could make an Oriole type of trade where they trade away a veteran, maybe McCutcheon. They're not trading Reynolds. I think they just extended him. Maybe Brian Hayes if he doesn't start to get it going a little bit more. Carlos Santana, a veteran like that could help some team. Even Austin Hedges. But if this team fools itself into thinking that they are a contender, then no, I don't think they make any trade. And if you're talking about a different Andrew, let me know. I'm not sure who you mean. It was stated by your compadre that hitting is the hardest thing in sports. I said that too as well, just to be clear. In baseball, definitely, yes, it is the hardest, but not in all the sports. But fill me in on what you think is the hardest thing, Kenny. Because I can't come up with another thing. I mean, golf's hard, but the ball's sitting there standing still waiting for me to hit it. The Reds have some nice talent coming up. I think it's time for a managerial change. Yeah, David Bell's been there a while. He did get them into the playoffs during the COVID season, and maybe one other time. I'm not sure, but he's had a pretty decent. And again, this isn't David Bell's fault because this team's been torn down at least twice while he's been there. They do have some decent young talent. We'll see how that plays out. In recent history, the Reds have not been known to let that talent develop fully and grow together. So we'll see whether they have any patience or whether they want to, if they have any inclination to really try and win. Yeah, make it 2 seasons. Yep, that's what we want to do. Yep. Let's diametrically change the entire game, Carlos. Why don't we just, again, let's go to 3 balls, and because it'll speed the game up. It'll make it easier for the hitters to get on base. And we'll make 2 seasons. And if you won the first half of the season, you can't win the second half. So we give somebody else a chance to make the playoffs. And then at the end, we'll go, everybody gets a trophy just for showing up. We aren't agreeing, just an FYI, not even close. If you don't recognize the sarcasm in my voice, with all the time we've spent together, Carlos. The Yankees bowl every year and struggle. Well, maybe they should be bowling and maybe it'll be better. They'll struggle in the playoffs again because they don't have their approach to the game. Listen, Aaron Judge is a great player, but he can't win on his own. They struggle against elite pitching come playoff time because we can't rely on home runs. I'm excited when I see them win yesterday on a double by IKF, even though the runner didn't earn his way to second base, as my wife would say. Sorry, Kenny Gifford. Highlight is probably the hardest, but it's not popular here. It's also fixed, by the way, in my experience with highlight in Florida. Anthony, welcome. I haven't seen you in a little bit. Hope you've been doing well. You've been watching a lot of baseball and been seeing a lot of balls called strikes. Umpiring has not been good. Just ask Aaron Boone. He'll tell you about the umpiring in baseball, right? Let me shut this down because I think that might be affecting my stream. No, umpiring is terrible. By the way, our favorite umpire, oh God, I forget his name now. Only umpired, I think, 1 game all year. Mysteriously. What the heck is... Oh, my God. It'll come to me. I can see his face, and I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Baseball's terrible. And by the way, the problem with this, and the more we complain about it, is we're going to end up at some point... What's going on my screen here? Well, that's over there. Don't really know. You know what? I think the TV behind the green screen is bleeding through. The problem with the umpires, and the more we complain about them, is the closer we'll come to robotic umpiring, right? They're already experimenting with it in lower minor leagues. Aaron Boone mentioned it the other day. Nobody wants this. Glad to see you with us today, Anthony, though. The sweepstakes before the trade deadline is going to be very interesting this year. Agreed. And you know what? Teams are going to strike early because they want to beat other teams to the punch, I think. I don't even know. There's nobody out there this year. There is no Juan Soto, unless the Angels decide to trade Ohtani because they don't think they can sign him. That's going to be an interesting to watch for as well. If the Angels feel like they're not going to be able to keep him, you may see Ohtani get traded. I don't think that's going to happen, especially with them in contention. But yeah, I think it will be a very interesting trade deadline. And I don't know. The Mets won't be desperate to unload payroll because they don't need to be. Cohen doesn't care about payroll. He cares about winning, and they're going to add payroll. They're not going to subtract. I mean, I guess they could subtract depending on who gets traded and who they trade for, but I don't see them worried about the payroll at all, like most other teams will. Even the Yankees worry about payroll. The Mets don't seem to worry about it at all. I don't think they're desperate to unload payroll. I think they're desperate to win. How much of what Carlos is saying do you think he is serious, and how much is he just look at? There's probably 50-50, which is scary enough, by the way. Even if 50% of what he says is he believes, that I'm scared for all of us and him. Oh, yes. Angel Hernandez, thank you. Now you got it. One game. So, but Major League Baseball, let me see what they're saying about Angel Hernandez and why. I think I saw an article the other day. Let me just see if what comes up here. News about Angel Hernandez. Ian Kinsler was fined $10,000. That's got to be an old report, isn't it? That's from 2017. That's too funny. Yeah, I'm not sure. I can't find out what's going on. Where is Angel Hernandez? Injury to blame for longtime umpires' absence in 2023. It's Major League Baseball is better for this, by the way. The fact that Angel Hernandez is still working as a Major League Baseball umpire is amazing to me. Angel, listen, I don't think that'll ever happen. It'd be better for Trout and it'd be better for the Angels because they can't seem to put a team around him. But now the Angels, if they stay in contention here, close to the deadline, let me try to fix that. Oh, shit. Now I just knocked off my computer. All right. Anyway. Technical issues. Yeah, the Angels have wasted Mike Trout's career, unfortunately. I mean, he's been paid well. Don't get me wrong. I don't feel sorry for him necessarily. He's made a very good dollar playing baseball. But this guy's probably never going to get a chance, if he stays there, maybe to play in a World Series. It's possible. Because they're at a crossroads. Even though they're playing better baseball now, they're at a crossroads because what do they do with Ohtani? Do they give him this huge contract or do they move him? Does he even want to stay in Anaheim? I don't know. Or Los Angeles, I guess. Sorry. Congratulations to the UK cycling and banning trans. I'm not going to get into that competition. Listen, that's a complicated. It's really not a complicated conversation, but that's one I will sidestep for now, just because I don't really feel like engaging in this topic on this particular show. But I will say that women who were formerly men And I don't care what you do. This is not about me saying you shouldn't be allowed to become a man or a woman or whatever you want to do. Do whatever you want. Don't make me worry about what I have to say, though, or do. But women who used to be men shouldn't be able to compete against women. It seems fairly simple to say that. Anyway. Alan, good morning again, Alan. I just saw the cheapest ticket to the Colorado home opener against Nebraska is $400. More than NFL kickoff game 5. By the way, you can barely get it. You can't get into Foxborough for $400. You can stand maybe. Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals, 22 times more than Nebraska home opener. Well, you know what? That's what they wanted. It's going to be very interesting to see. And people will go because of the whole Dion phenomenon. Now you have to win, though. You can't charge those prices long just because Deion Sanders is the coach. You got to win. So we'll see. What is this here, Kenny? Speaking of trades, Orioles need a new pitcher. Orioles could use pitching, definitely. The Orioles have played great baseball, Anthony, without a doubt. I think we've had this conversation before, right? I don't think they can be serious contenders to win everything or advance far in the playoffs without being a little deeper in the pitching department, for sure. So I want to try something while you guys are here. I'm going to try one more time. I want to do this. I don't know why I can't get this file. Oh, maybe I can. Hold on. I'm trying so hard to get this share up. Oh, I got it.
What's going on, TGI Sports Talk fans?
On,
it's Jim Berenger here, the Ringmaster, giving you an update here from vacation here in Vermont. The Stanley Cup playoffs going on here on this Memorial Day weekend, and we're going Game 6, Western Conference Final
now, guys.
On Memorial Day Monday, going back to the Big D. How about Ty Dellandrea and the Dallas Stars? They forced the Game 6 down 3-0 in the Western Conference Final. No Jamie Benn. He was suspended for 2 games for cross-checking Mark Stone in the head. Well, he's back for Game 6, and the Dallas Stars are back from the dead. They get the overtime game win in Game 4 to get off the schneid, and now they get a big win in Vegas. Very tough place to play, and they're going back to Dallas, and they're bringing the Vegas Golden Knights with them. Very entertaining series here in the Western Conference Final. Look, the first 2 games could have gone either way. Dallas probably should have won Game 2. They didn't. Poor defensive coverage. Allowed Vegas to come back. They controlled the game for 55 minutes in Game 2. Lost in overtime. Game 1 was an overtime loss too. Same with Game 4. That could have been handshakes. Could have been the sweep. Vegas off to a Stanley Cup final. And we begin a Stanley Cup final on Wednesday, May 31st. Instead, the Stanley Cup final now is going to start Saturday, June 3rd. And oh boy, what a Stanley Cup final it's going to be, because the winner of the Western Conference Final between Vegas and Dallas gets those red-hot Florida Panthers. Now we're going to see how much time will cool those Panthers off, because 10 days off heading into a Stanley Cup final is not a recipe for success. Just ask the 2003 Anaheim Ducks, 2007 Ottawa Senators. Time is not your friend. Rest is not an option and is not a good thing for teams in a Stanley Cup final, especially if Dallas rallies to win the Western Conference Final down 3-0. Look out, they're going to win the Stanley Cup, because usually that's how things play out. We see it. We saw it with the Boston Red Sox in 2004. Pains me. We could see it again here with the Dallas Stars winning against a very good Vegas Golden Knights team who was in control, and looks like, potentially could have been going to a Stanley Cup final for the second time in 6 seasons, and they've been only around for 6 seasons. This is their 4th trip to a Stanley Cup, to the Western Conference Final. They've been to a Stanley Cup final before. They know what it takes to get there. Look, their GM, after losing to Dallas in the bubble in 2020, went out and got Alex Pietrangelo, got out Jack Eichel. They knew they needed number 1 defenseman, number 1 center. They got it. Aiden Hill's played good. He's made excellent saves. He's made the saves he's needed to and the timely saves. Game 5, look, Alex Petrangelo's got to get his stick out of the way, plain and simple, on the Ty Dellandrea shot, because Hill was making remarkable saves, unbelievable saves, pucks that should have gone in. But Jake Ottinger, back from the dead after a bad Game 3 performance where Vegas ran him out of the building, played great in Game 4, played great in Game 5, started off Vegas on a power play, gets right in his zone, stops everything in his way through traffic. You know he's in the zone there. Aiden Hill did the same thing, went back and forth. But Ty Dellandrea, 2 big goals in the third period. Max Domi had a great game. Jason Robertson, the Behringer push is trademark now. I told you about him coming into the series. He needed to have a great series for Dallas to win. He's got 5 goals in a series. He had 2 goals coming into this. So, I mean, look, Jason Robertson doing his thing. And now Game 6, they win that. Game 7, we know Pete DeBoer's record, 7-0 with 4 different teams. So who knows? Florida Panthers, what a season for them. Down and out all year. Last year they get swept by Tampa Bay in the playoffs. They make the big trade, get Matthew Tkachuk. This kid's a star. This guy's a superstar. He's everywhere. He's doing all the rounds with ESPN. TNT was on inside the NBA with the TNT crew down in South Florida. South Florida sports is hopping right now with the Miami Heat, with the Florida Panthers, Panthers Central. The Rats are back. But Tkachuk, 3 game-winning goals in the Eastern Conference Final, 2 in overtime with the walk-offs. Then he scores with 4.3 seconds left in Game 4 on a power play. Unbelievable save. He assisted on the Sam Reinhart winner, so he counted for, got an assist, and was involved in every game-winning goal for the Florida Panthers in the Eastern Conference Final. They're down 3-1 to Boston. They rally. Tkachuk again, Game 5. They win Game 7. They destroy Toronto. They take care of business. And I know Peter Laviolette, there's where my head's at. Oh, by the way, Peter Laviolette's probably the front runner for the New York Rangers head coaching position. So throw everybody else out the window. But think about this for a second. Rob Brindamore said it. Yeah, it was a 4-game sweep, but it's not like Florida dominated them. Every game was 1-goal game. And outside the bounces, look, Sergei Bobrovsky played well outside of Game 3 where he gave up 3 goals for the first time since the Boston Bruins series. But guess what? He got the saves done. Freddie Anderson played well, but Carolina's offense, which was a problem, entering the playoffs with no Svechnikov and no Pacioretty, just didn't show up. It wasn't like it was the same defense they saw against the Devils. It wasn't the same defense that they saw against the Islanders. And the Carolina offense struggled against big goalie Ilya Sorokin and a great defense in the Islanders. And we saw the same thing here. I mean, they had chances. Bobrovsky was just there and was better. And they just couldn't bury it. And they couldn't get the break in overtime. And if they did, it's a different series. But they didn't. And they're going home. And they need to address goal scoring. And they can't be cheap with their money anymore. That owner can't be cheap anymore. And I know they have restricted pending unrestricted free agents in Frederick Anderson and Antti Ranta, and you need to bring one of them back, and you need to pay for it, or else you're going to keep losing players and maximizing what you have on your roster. So it's going to be interesting. Again, the Stanley Cup Final starts June 3rd. It's a while for the Florida Panthers. Again, they needed help down the stretch, but they also did their own thing. Look, you go into Toronto, Paul Maurice has the tirade on the bench. Matthew Tkachuk's dad, Keith Tkachuk, goes on Toronto radio, calls them sauce. They go 6-1. Yeah, everybody wants to point to the Penguins. Yes, the Panthers did what they had to do, win games down the stretch, but the Penguins also lost games similar to what the Flames did. And if the Flames could have won a game, they would have controlled their own destiny too. But they didn't, and the Panthers found their way in because the Penguins couldn't beat Chicago or Columbus, but also the Panthers could have been out of this thing if Toronto took care of business at the end of March too. So a lot of factors went into it. They're on a great run. Maybe it ends, maybe it doesn't end, but they're waiting now. They're playing the waiting game, and that's never a good thing. Real quick touch on the IIHF Worlds, man. Team USA, disappointing semifinal loss. Now 0-12 in the semifinals. They haven't gotten past that mark since 1933 when they won a gold medal. Oh, unbelievable, just heartbreaking. Had the game in hand against Germany. Up, 3-2 late. Germany ties it, and then Germany wins it in overtime using speed. USA looked fatigued. They had a great run into the semifinals, 8-0. They were dominating the tournament, dominating the game. And that's the breaks, man. The Germans, they just don't go away. They're going to try to win a gold medal for the first time at the tournament. They're going to play Canada. Canada had a rally against their own. Latvia gave them everything they could handle and more. Give it up for the Latvians. They're going to try to win their first medal ever on the big stage in international hockey at any level. And that's going to be a tough challenge for Team USA. But Adam Fantilli with the goal of the tournament, Mario, like the third period to give Canada the lead. So Canada, Germany for the gold medal, USA versus Latvia for the bronze. If USA doesn't show up, Latvia could probably win this thing. And that means no medal for a great tournament for a great group of kids, especially Cutter Gauthier. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But just wanted to give everybody an update what's going on from the Ringmaster here in Vermont. National Hockey League, IIHF Worlds, Stanley Cup Playoffs, Stanley Cup Final starts June 3rd. We'll be back at you live next week. Talk to you guys real soon here on TGI Sports Talk.
Excellent update from Jim Beringer. Again, sorry for the quick pivot there, guys. I just did not want to lose. I didn't want to lose that video once I finally got it going. I was talking and trying to get it up at the same, get the video up at the same time. That was interesting. Slip. Listen, the Stars stay alive, right? We're going to talk a little bit of hockey for a few minutes here. We'll go back to some baseball. And I got some NFL to talk about as well. But I wanted to get this up, and we did it. So, the Stars stay alive, as Jim said. The question becomes with the Panthers, much like the Nuggets in the NBA, how much harm is done by sitting around? Get some rest, you get healthy, it's all good, but sometimes too much is, too much. With the whole Ben situation, I know that CA is going to disagree with me. Vegas stole game 2, huge blow towards Stars' goal of taking home ice. He'd have handled Stone differently before game 3. It wouldn't have been on the ice. Listen, whatever you think about, you need to protect your players and protect your teammates and whatnot. But what Jamie Benn did to Mark Stone cannot happen. I'm sorry. I understand, justice and whatever else you want to call it, but this was a dangerous thing that he pulled. And if you watch the video, I don't know how you can argue with me. And CA, you might, and that's fine. But what Jamie Benn did, I would have suspended him for the rest of the playoffs. I just would have. He had to know that would be a potential outcome. He was suspended for 2 games. But again, it's a dangerous moment in that game, and I don't think that it was dealt with severely enough. And I understand that this type of thing happens in hockey, but if you did that on the street, you'd be in jail and you'd go to prison for sure. Regardless of whoever advantages, President's Trophy winners from last season will be well rested for the finals and favorites. Probably right. You're probably right. This series, and I know you're a big Dallas fan, so that's why I'm not sure that you'll agree with me on the whole Jamie Benn thing. And it'll be interesting if the Stars can come back here and force a Game 7. Game 7s are great. We already talked about that. I love Game 7s. I'm looking forward to the Heat and Celtics tomorrow, I think. And I would love to see this Vegas game get to 7. Vegas and the Stars. So they'll get Ben back, I think, for Game 6, if I'm not wrong. Is that right? See, I'm pretty sure Ben will come back for Game 6. But again, I would have suspended him the rest of the way. No, the stick to the neck. That's what I don't care about the check. I have no problem with the check. The stick to the neck was just way beyond the pale. And listen, I suspend the guy for the rest of the playoffs if it's me. He's a team captain. He's got to be smarter. And I just don't think that that's good for the game of hockey, sport of hockey. So anyway, we can take it any way you want. And we'll continue to talk a little bit about that if you'd like. CA, certainly put your comments up, or anybody else. A couple of other things. The Rangers search for a coach. I like Peter Laviolette. a lot. I think he'll be a good hire if the Rangers are going in that direction. You know, you can say he's a retread, you can say whatever, but he does have a Stanley Cup on his resume, and I think that this would be a move in the right direction for a Ranger team that's ready to win today, not later. I found it very interesting that they were even considering Joel Quenneville with the situation that's going on with him in the past year plus, with being suspended from the Panthers and then fired and suspended by the league. I think he was suspended by the league. Not sure. That suspension has been lifted. He could coach, and he is a Hall of Fame coach. Another guy with a great career, 2 Stanley Cups with the Blackhawks, but the situation that he kind of let slide is not something that can be tolerated. And to me, he's not a guy that I'd want to bring into my organization at this point. If I'm the Rangers, I wouldn't want to do that. I was surprised that his name came up. I'm sure he'll probably get a head coaching job in the NHL again. He's just not somebody that I would be looking for, to be honest with you. And again, he talked about Germany, a tough end for the U.S. They had a good run through the Worlds, and they lose in the semifinals to Germany. So tough end for them. Yeah, I did get that. So anyway, that's our look at the NHL. We'll get Jim back in live. He's off enjoying some holiday time this weekend. I think he's going to be fishing. So good luck on the lakes or wherever you'll be. Could be in the ocean. I'm not sure where he's going. So I hope you do enjoy yourself, Jim, and thank you for giving that. And I'll post that again to the site, to the page, once we get a chance to. And we'll go back to some more baseball as well today. We'll finish this half hour up with some NHL and some NFL and some more baseball if we want. We talked about the managers in trouble. If we get to it, I got it was an article I was reading in The Athletic about players today and their Hall of Fame chances. We might get into that. And if we don't, we'll get into it at another date. Hopefully he's not in the ocean, maybe just floating on it. You know, it's funny. When I was in the beer business and before the job I've had for the last 21 years, I worked for 15 years in the beer business, and we sold Beck's beer, German beer. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but I got into an argument one time with a guy in a bar, shockingly, about, because on the outside of the case of Beck's, it said available in all continents, I think is what it said. I could be wrong. I think that's what it said. And he argued that it should be on. This company should be embarrassed when it's it's a German company, by the way, but it's use of the English language. But I thought that it's interesting that you say that. So if he's in the ocean, I guess he could be in the ocean spear fishing, right? I mean, I don't know what Jim does when he fishes. I'm not a fisherman, obviously. If he's in the ocean, just make sure you got scuba gear on, right? That's all we hope for. And if he's not, hopefully the boat stays afloat. Let me talk. We'll go back to some baseball too, but I want to get into a little bit of NFL too. We can go anywhere you guys want today. As we say, it's a stream of consciousness show. And today, literally, with the switch that I made on the fly to Jim Berger, because I got the video working and I didn't want to stop it. Because the one place I had it up was not the video that was playing, so I don't know where it was playing from. So we'll just let it be. NFL news. Hopkins gets cut by the Cardinals. A bit of a surprise in the fact that they're going to take a $22 million cap hit for this release. So it's going to be interesting to see where DeAndre Hopkins ends up. We'll take a look right now at some of the potential suitors for him. Listen, he's a good player. When he stays on the field, and he's had trouble doing that, it's going to be interesting to see. some of the contenders that I've seen, Buffalo, who've already, this is going to depend a lot on whether he wants the money he was due in Arizona, because that was $19.45 million, I believe, 19.5, something like that. So teams without cap space, if he wants close to that, they're going to have trouble making this happen. Like the Bills only have $2.4 million in cap space. It's going to be very tough. The Chiefs have been mentioned, but again, they're a contending team like the Bills, who probably could use a little receiver help, but I don't think they're desperate. I think they think Kadarius Toney can be a number one based on the way he played after they got him from the Giants last year. But, I don't think they have cap space either. I think they've only got like 1.5 million or so. The Jets were close to signing Odell Beckham, so they could be looking to add another weapon for Aaron Rodgers. They do have, I think, close to $7 million in cap space. And they probably could, from what I've read, they could probably create more cap space by reworking some contracts, specifically Corey Davis and Mosley. And if they were to add Hopkins to this wide receiver room that already has Garrett Wilson, Lazard, Hardman, this would be a very, very elite wide receiver team. The Cowboys will surely come up. They do have CeeDee Lamb, and they did sign Brandon Cooks to be their vertical threat. But again, this is a team that would probably be in play here. They do have as much cap space, I think, as anybody, close to 10 million, I think, left, maybe a little less. So they'll be interesting. The Saints, who we'll talk about in a second too, as they brought John Gruden in to help Derek Carr learn the new offense. They've got quite a bit of cap space. I think of all the teams that might be interested here, and it's going to depend. Does Hopkins want to win, or does Hopkins want money? So they do. And by the way, Chris Olave is the number one wide receiver there. So they definitely could use some help there. Some other teams, those are, I think, are the major contenders. Some other teams to watch are the Browns. He did play with Deshaun Watson before, so there's a connection there. The Giants, who certainly, while they've improved their receivers, they don't have that standout, that elite guy, and maybe Darren Walker or Waller, assumes that role. But I do think it's tougher for a tight end to do that unless you're, Kelsey. I don't know that they had the cap space to get it done, though. The Falcons, I think the Falcons are too young, not ready to win, and I don't think that's a good landing spot for him. Again, I do think there's a sense that DeAndre Hopkins might be interested in the Patriots, but he had a rocky relationship with Bill O'Brien in Houston, so that's one stumbling block. The money will be another stumbling block, and it's whether he thinks the Patriot quarterback situation warrants him potentially going there. Again, I think he'd be a great move for the Patriots if they found a way to get this done, and he would certainly help Mac Jones's development a lot. So, very interesting move in the Cardinals taking this direction. They obviously couldn't trade him, or they would not have taken this hit. And then we got to go backwards a little bit here. So let's see, where are we? Ocean. Obviously not a Perth grad. I think we're back to the Beck's conversation there. Ben knows he lost composure and the cross finish to the neck cost him 2 games. should have been consistent with the rest of his playoffs. One game. Listen, to me, that type of action, CA, I would suspend him for the remainder of the playoffs. So to me, again, if you're going to do something that's going to get you put in jail on the street, you got to be dealt with harsher than one game or even two. Anthony Price says the Saints division to lose. They should win that division. That division is going to be pretty bad, by the way. I think I ranked it last when I did it a few weeks ago, and we'll do it again before the start of the season because there'll be more moves made through training camp and whatnot. It would be interesting, and the Saints would be an interesting landing spot for Hopkins, and he may want to come in there. New coaching staff, new offense. I mean, Derek Carr, I'm not a huge fan of, but he has had success in this league, at least numbers-wise, if not winning playoff games. And it might be a place where DeAndre Hopkins wants to go. Like I said, I think it's going to depend a lot on whether he wants to win or whether he wants the money. Because I don't think he can get both. There's only a handful of teams can offer him even close to where he was last year with the Cardinals. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. I have heard, we heard Hopkins to the Ravens when they were talking about trading him before the draft. And I don't know that that's a possibility. Another team that I don't think has a cap space, especially after the big contract they signed Jackson for. But that would be an interesting place. I mean, Hopkins is an elite talent still when he's on the field. I'd love to see him in the Patriots wide receiver room and hope he can stay healthy. And I don't think his previous relationship with Bill O'Brien would be a problem because I think, that was a head coach and a player a bit, I don't know, strong-willed, if you will, maybe a little thick-headed and younger. And I think that would not be an issue if we go forward. But money will be, and I do not think he's going to get the money that he would want from the Patriots. So I don't think they're going to be in play. Back to hockey. Furthermore, they almost killed that fifth major, which would have accomplished Ben's original intent. However, the team has responded in Game 6's must-see TV. Great. Listen, the hockey itself, I'm excited about the individual play, the individual actions of Ben are something that I don't have a stomach for, unfortunately. Bill would have his hands full. He strikes me as a head case. I don't get that sense. After watching... somebody had a similar to Hard Knocks. They had a season. It wasn't Prime. There was another. Might have been the NFL Network. I don't remember, but somebody was covering the Cardinals' regular season last year. So similar to Hard Knocks, behind the scenes. And I did not get the sense that DeAndre Hopkins was any more of a head case than any other wide receiver in the league. All of them are a bit of divas. But I got the sense that he was a good teammate. He wanted to be on the field, had a good relationship with a interesting personality in Murray. And I don't think he would be a problem on any team. But again, coming to the Patriots, there's a lot of, the whole O'Brien-Hopkins dynamic might be an issue. But again, this is not head coach and player. This is offensive coordinator and player, which is much different in my mind. And again, players normally come to the Patriots and they conform if there are previous issues. Corey Dillon is a great example. Randy Moss, another great example. So there's been a handful of guys where it hasn't worked out. But this would be worth that type of gamble. But again, I do not think they're going to offer up the money that would need to be offered up for that to happen. Hopkins' problem was he didn't know what was going on his body or with his body, I guess. So I get that. I did. Again, I think if you watch, I can't remember where I watched this either, Rick. Because it was happening because Prime has one called, well, I can't remember the name of the series here. They follow football teams through the regular season, but you see it later. This was happening basically in real time. Maybe it was HBO. It might have been HBO Max, and it was an extension of Hard Knocks, and they just did it for the regular season. And you would see it every week, basically, after that week was played. So, again, I didn't get the sense that he was not a good teammate. So, we'll see how that plays out. Oops, sorry, Drew. I didn't mean to cut you off there. Hopkins has become Aquan Bolden, more stationary, and that's probably fair as well. But that type of player can certainly help a team. Aquan Bolden played really well in that type of role as well for a long time with the Cardinals and later with the Ravens. And he may have played somewhere else. But, I still think Hopkins is a very productive player when he's healthy, and I think he would help any one of the teams we just talked about. Every one of them, though, has the issue of money to overcome, and I'm not sure whether any of them can do it. Any fights can get us put in jail, but at least UK or some places in the EU where truthful words can hurt illogical folks' feelings and get incarcerated. Not yet. Not yet, but we're getting close. Right? I mean, we don't get put, well, we're not going to put in jail for words, but people lose their jobs for words. We've already had that conversation. We'll have it more. What else is going on in the NFL? I talked about John Gruden returning to the NFL after being fired by the Raiders when the texts were revealed and had some homophobic language. Speaking of guys who lost their job for words, right? Homophobic language, called, talked disparagingly about the commissioner and some other issues. These were, I think, sent to the former president of the team formerly known as the Redskins, Allen, I believe. But he's been brought in by another Allen, Dennis Allen, the new coach of the Saints, Dennis Allen was part of, I believe, part of Gruden's coaching staff with the Raiders. And he's installing an offense that Gruden had coached in the past with the Eagles when he and Allen were there years and years ago. So he's going to come in and help Derek Carr learn this offense. And who knows? Maybe this is his. Peyton. Sorry, this is an offense run by Sean Payton, and Payton and Gruden were coaching compadres with the Eagles back in the 90s. So it's new system, new cadences, new everything, and there's going to be a learning curve for everybody involved. And they brought John Gruden in here. So the question will become, now this is like an unofficial, he's not on the coaching staff, right? He's an advisor or whatever you want to call him. But it'll be interesting to see if this is a path back to the NFL for John Gruden, who's apologized for his comments. Again, these were not comments made in public. These were comments made in a private conversation. Again, Big Brother is watching us, apparently. So should he get another chance? I don't know. John Gruden believes he's a good person. He's raised good kids. He's had a marriage of 31 years. Outside of this, by all accounts, he's not a bad human being. So should he have to pay the ultimate price of a career for what happened? I don't know. I'm not going to be the judge of that today. But this might be his path back to the NFL. We'll see how that goes. Congratulations, Alan, on OU's chance to three-peat for a national title, plus breaking the record for most wins of 48. That's for the, I believe, Kenny's talking about the Oklahoma women's softball team, I believe. I read Hopkins wants a chance to win a championship. If that's the case, then the Jets, the Bills, the Chiefs are probably going to be the prime contenders. We'll see. It wasn't Snyder that he sent him to, I thought, Rick. Wasn't it? Let's see. Somewhere here. Maybe you're right. I thought I saw somewhere that he sent these. Those texts were sent to Bruce Allen. I could be wrong. Let's see, or emails or texts, whichever they were. John Rumble explained Raiders coach resigns. Blah blah blah. Yeah. League officials uncovered the emails as part of the workplace misconduct investigation of former Washington football team president Bruce Allen, and they were not specifically focused on Gruden, but these were emails sent to Bruce Allen. Maybe Schneider was on them. I don't know, but I've never seen that he was part of this. This was about an investigation into Bruce Allen, and Gruden got caught up in it. What's next? NHL needs a softer puck. No, that's not where I'm going with this. CA. I don't have a problem with the physical play in the NHL whatsoever. I don't have a problem with fighting in the NHL. I have a problem with a guy who takes a freaking deadly weapon and tries to break a guy's neck. And that's what I see in that video. Now, do I think he wanted to break his neck and kill him? No, I don't think that. I don't know what he was thinking. You said yourself that he lost his composure, and he knows it. He lost his composure, and something really bad could have happened. It didn't. Thank God he wasn't. Stone wasn't hurt. Could have been really bad. So again, you can't necessarily wait until something happens. I'm certainly not a guy who says, I know hockey's a violent sport. Football's a violent sport. I don't like the violence being legislated out of said sports. I do have a problem when guys are wielding a deadly weapon, and trying to maim somebody, whether it's consciously or unconscious, or subconsciously or unconsciously, or whatever consciously you want to use. There I have a problem. So anyway, there's a John Gruden situation. Where was I? What else? Josh McDaniels, Devontae Adams has earned the right, because Devontae went off recently about not seeing eye to eye on the direction of the franchise, and Josh McDaniels, I don't know if this is the way I would go. He feels Adams he said publicly anyway, that Adams has earned the right to vent on the Raiders because of the career that he's had. And, I don't know. Guys can speak up if they want. I don't think Josh McDaniels needs to be apologizing for him. Speaking of the Raiders, it turns out, it's come out that Jimmy Garoppolo underwent surgery on his injured left foot before signing a free agent contract with the team in March. But everything is trending in the right direction for him. 1 minute, NFL wants Dan Snyder gone, and but they're waiting to vote to sell the team. No, they have to vote. Anytime a team is sold to another group, the same applies in Major League Baseball and maybe the other leagues. I'm not sure, but the new ownership has to be voted on by the league. That's why Donald Trump doesn't own the Buffalo Bills, let's say, or somebody else, because the league was never going to vote for him to be a owner. That's why we try. That's how the USFL, the original USFL, ended up having to fold, because Donald Trump wanted to force his way into the NFL because he knew he could never get approved by buying a team. So he bought the Generals, tried to move the league to the fall, the schedule to the fall, and sued the NFL, trying to force a merger where the better, stronger teams, like the Generals, would be part of the NFL. And it didn't work. So anyway, that's why the owners will be voting to make sure that somebody they don't want. And I'm not making a judgment on whether Trump would have been a good or a bad owner. I don't know. I'm just telling you the facts. So anyway, news that the NFL Sunday Ticket will remain available to DirecTV for bars and hotels. So they can't, they would not be able to broadcast it into homes on DirecTV because, as you know, YouTube bought the rights to the NFL Ticket, but they are going to make it available to DirecTV for a cost to be able to still show it in bars. I'm a little concerned. My wife says I should be concerned that I have a, I don't want to be too graphic here, but I have a tendency lately to belch more than I have in the past. And she says I should be concerned. So I hope that's not true, but we'll see. Lions, Jameson Williams wasn't aware, he claims, of the NFL gambling policy. And he admits to feeling sick and hurt the night that he found out he was going to be suspended for 6 games. You know, again, I don't know that he should be blindsided by this. I think he probably should have known the rules if he doesn't. But again, he didn't bet on NFL games. He got flagged for mobile betting that occurred at the team's facilities. And for this, I still say the NFL is hugely hypocritical. And, you know, I don't want guys. You shouldn't have the worry about the impropriety of players betting or having point shaving scandals or whatnot. But when you get into bed with gambling sites like the NFL, Major League Baseball, and all their sports have, you're going to have to run the risk of issues coming up. And you can't be hypocritical. If you're promoting gambling and players gamble but not on football, then leave them alone. Trump is a silent owner of Washington, and we wonder why things are happening. I don't think he's a silent owner of anything in Washington. And, you know, as a member of the same party as Donald Trump, other than wackos to the right of me, nobody wants a redux of that, and he is not in charge of anything. We won't go down that road, though. The NFL can keep that Sunday Ticket, and YouTube can have that red zone. I haven't seen the prices at all, Anthony. At one time, I did get the ticket, and I did have the red zone. But, you know, now it's become a time for me to get together with my friends and actually socialize with people. And that's where I watch my Patriot games. On that note, here's the insidious thing. Overwhelmingly, the government, in coordination with social media marketing, know who the real racists are, whatever their color is, amongst many other things. We certainly are all over the board today. You should listen to her. Your body's trying to tell you something. I probably should. And I do have my physical coming up here in a week or so. So we'll mention it to the doctor, and I'll probably be back to the cardiologist or something. And because I got time for all of that too. Anyway, I will take care of myself. I promise. Has Jameson Williams heard of Calvin Ridley? Hey, Scott, good to have you with us this morning. Probably not. If this guy's got his head buried in the sand, you know, come up with a better. He insists he's not a gambler. Well, if you gambled, then you're a gambler, aren't you? I mean, look I feel bad for Jameson Williams in a way. You shouldn't be gambling if the league tells you not to. But at the same time, the league has to stop being hypocrites and taking all this money from gambling sites. Makes no sense. YouTube is charging $360 for the season. That's not a lot more, isn't it? And again, I haven't had the ticket in quite some time. When I had the satellite DirecTV, because I use streaming, but I feel like I paid $300 for the season when I had it. And that was 10 years ago, the last time. I could be wrong. My memory is not that good. Why is it so hard to have someone bet for you? True. Again, my big problem here is with the NFL itself and the and that the hypocrisy of what they're doing. All sports, right? I mean, they shouldn't be in bed with any gambling sites. There is a scandal waiting to happen. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know what sport it's going to be, but it's going to happen. Do as we say, not as we do. Excellent point, Drew. No, it's about the same, except it's a one-time charge with YouTube. I guess you could pay in what? I think every 3 months or something previously, probably, Scott. I thought it was about the same. Yeah, in installments on DirecTV. I think it was 3 months installments, if I remember back that far. Again, I haven't had it in a while, and I don't have any intention of getting it probably ever again. I did get the YouTube, or where did I had the Red Zone one? I had a trial for something, Tubi TV or something, and got the Red Zone last year for a few weeks. I loved the Red Zone when I had that. That was part of. That wasn't part of the NFL ticket, the Red Zone, though. That was more, I think, the NFL Network, if I remember right. And that was like $7 a month, I think, when I paid for that. And you've got other stuff. It wasn't a standalone product. I got other sports channels, I think, as part of that. I use Red Zone more for my fantasy. Yeah, well, it's great for fantasy, right? Because you get to see every score of every game. One other thing in the NFL, Antonio Brown. I want to talk about Antonio Brown for a few minutes. Everybody knows who Antonio Brown is and why he's not in the NFL. He claims there are teams interested in him. For those who don't know, he's bought the Arena League Albany Empire, our local team here. He's turned it into a fiasco. They've had three coaches, or four coaches, depending how you look at it. The coach who started the season quit when he bought the team. The coach that came in coached one game and left. The coach that left before the season started came in, didn't make it to coach a game. He quit. Now they're on another coach. Half the team has left, either been let go or quit. And Antonio Brown said he was going to play this week. So they sold a bunch of more tickets. I don't know what the crowd was. 2 weeks ago, it was only 2,000, or 3 weeks ago, whenever their last home game was, it was only 2,000 people, at least announced. I'm not sure what they got last night, but I'm sure a lot of those people bought tickets because they thought Antonio Brown was going to play. And guess what happened? Antonio Brown didn't play because he said he didn't get the paperwork filed in time or whatever. This guy's a joke. He's taken a franchise that was pretty strong here in Albany, won a couple of Arena League championships the last few years, was drawing great. The 3 or 4 times I've gone over to games, there was 8,000 or 9,000 people in the place. And he's pretty much run it into the ground. His father must be very proud. His father's a legend here in Albany. Eddie Brown. Not to be confused with Eddie Brown who played in the NFL with the Bengals. But he's a legend here when the Firebirds were here in their first incarnation. Anyway. There's Alan saying good morning to Scott. I don't know why I put those all up. Okay, yeah. Antonio Brown is living in my backyard. Maybe that's who's burrowing under my house, and it's not a groundhog that I'm doing battle with. Can't believe people do continue to pay to watch the clown. It's crazy. I guess that's going to be it for today, guys. We'll wrap it up again. Enjoy your holiday weekend, and remember why we're celebrating this holiday. For those who have what happened? For those who have paid the ultimate price for our freedoms, please, again, no matter how much I complain about things, and I've done it periodically here today, it's still a great country when you compare it to most of the rest of the world. Also, thanks to all the viewers here on TGI Sports Talk, all of you that have made comments today, all our Northeast streaming sports people, Let's Talk Sports people. And remember, new affiliation for Let's Talk Sports with Sideline Sports. Check them out as well. And the show is here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And there'll be more news to come about that and how it might involve this show as well as some others in the near future. So, guys, have a great weekend, and we will catch you on the rebound. Good luck against Rick today. Thank you, Drew. I'm going to need it. To everyone, have a nice day. Don't drink and drive. Good comments there. All right, guys, have a great weekend. We'll catch you next week with Are You Serious and our Sunday Stream of Consciousness. And hopefully we'll be back with Dan Harris on Let's Talk New York Sports as well. We hope Dan is doing better today than he was when I chatted with him on Friday. Have a great weekend, guys.